Carl Jung. He dedicated decades of his life to studying the very depths of the human mind. And among all his groundbreaking discoveries, perhaps one of the most disturbing was the existence of people who appear human, but are, in essence, something else entirely. People without a conscience, people without remorse, psychopaths. Now, Jung didn't use that term lightly. He meticulously studied real cases, patients who walked through his Zurich practice, individuals who destroyed lives around them, seemingly without a second thought. And what he found was truly terrifying. Psychopaths are not rare. They are among us, at work, in our families, in our relationships. And the most dangerous part, you might be living with a psychopath right now and not even realize it. But Carl Jung also gave us something incredibly valuable. He taught us how to recognize them. He mapped out the warning signs. And today, you're going to learn the 5 most important signs that Jung identified. 5 characteristics that don't lie. 5 red flags that could save you from years of unnecessary suffering. If you're watching this video, there's probably something inside you that already suspects. Maybe it's that partner who constantly makes you feel like you're always in the wrong. That coworker who destroys reputations with a smile. That family member who manipulates everyone. And no one seems to notice. Trust your gut. Jung believed that our intuition is the voice of our unconscious trying to protect us. And if you're feeling uneasy, if you have a nagging sense of distrust, there's a reason for it. Your unconscious has already picked up on something that your conscious mind is still trying to process. Before we begin, an important disclaimer. This video is not intended to diagnose anyone. Only trained professionals can do that. But these signs that Jung identified can help you recognize dangerous behaviors and, most importantly, protect yourself. So, let's get to the 5 signs. Sign number 1, irresistible superficial charm. Jung noticed something fascinating. Psychopaths possess what he called the perfect persona. The persona, in Jungian analytical psychology, is the social mask that we all wear. It's how we present ourselves to the world. But while most of us have a persona that reflects at least some part of our true selves, the psychopath creates a completely fabricated persona, and they are masters at it. When you first meet a psychopath, it's like meeting the most amazing person in the world. They are charming, funny, interesting. They seem to know exactly what to say. They make you feel special, seen, understood. It's like magic, Jung cautioned. Be wary of instant enchantment. Because that charm isn't real, it's calculated. It's a manipulation tactic. The psychopath studies you. They observe your reactions. They figure out what you need to hear, what you want to feel, and they give it to you, not out of kindness, but because they need to hook you. Think about it. When you meet someone who is genuinely authentic, the connection grows gradually. You discover layers. There are moments of awkwardness, of adjustment, of getting to know each other. It's human, it's real, but with a psychopath, it's perfect from the very first second. And that should set off alarms. Jung said that true individuality is imperfect. We are complex, contradictory, sometimes confused. But the psychopath presents an overly polished version of themselves, without flaws, without hesitation, always knowing exactly what to do or say. If someone seems too good to be true, Jung would tell you, it's because they probably are. Pay attention. Does that charm change once they get what they want? Does the person who was fascinating at the beginning of the relationship become cold months later? Does that colleague who charmed you in the interview now sabotage you behind your back? That's superficial charm in action. And that leads us to sign number 2, the total absence of true empathy. Jung understood empathy as the ability to feel with another person. Not just intellectually understand them, but really feel what they're feeling. It's that ache in your chest when you see someone suffering. It's that genuine joy when someone you love achieves something. Psychopaths don't have that. They can simulate it. They've learned to make the right expressions, say the right words. They might even perform seemingly kind gestures, but they don't feel it. Jung described this as a deep emotional void, a coldness at their core. But how do you recognize it? After all, psychopaths are good actors. Jung taught us to observe not the words, but the actions, especially when no one is watching. A psychopath might cry at a funeral. They might say they're sorry when you're upset. They might even perform seemingly generous gestures, but observe closely. There's something mechanical. There's a disconnect between what they say they feel and what you feel coming from them. And more importantly, observe how they react when they cause pain. A normal person, when they realize they've hurt someone, feels genuine discomfort. There's guilt, there's a desire to repair. Even if the person is angry, there's an internal struggle. The psychopath, nothing. They might apologize, but the apologies are empty. They say what you need to hear so you'll stop bothering them. But there's no real remorse. There's no change in behavior. And soon, they'll do the same thing again. Jung observed patients who had destroyed entire lives, families, careers, and they talked about it with the same emotion you'd use to describe what you ate for breakfast. Total indifference. If you're in a relationship where the person repeatedly hurts you and their apologies never lead to real change, Jung would say, you're dealing with someone incapable of true empathy, and that's dangerous. Because without empathy, there are no limits to what they'll do. If it serves their purposes, they'll hurt you without a second thought, and they'll still make you believe it's your fault. Which brings us to sign number 3, systematic manipulation and gaslighting. Jung called this shadow projection. The shadow, in Jungian theory, is the part of ourselves that we reject, that we hide. We all have a shadow. But healthy people work to integrate and understand their shadow. The psychopath does something different. They project their entire shadow onto you. This means that everything bad that they are, they accuse you of being. They lie, but they call you a liar. They cheat, but they accuse you of being disloyal. They manipulate, but they say you're trying to control them. Jung saw this in his patients. They never took responsibility. There was always someone else to blame. There was always an external excuse. And they are so convincing at it that you start to doubt yourself. This is gaslighting, and psychopaths are masters at it. You remember a conversation clearly, but they swear it never happened. You felt something real, but they tell you that you're being too sensitive, dramatic, crazy. You point out their wrongdoing, but somehow the conversation ends with you apologizing. Jung warned, when you start questioning your own reality, your own memory, your own sanity, someone is manipulating you. And over time, it destroys you from the inside out. You stop trusting yourself. You stop trusting your feelings. You accept their narrative, because doubting yourself is less painful than facing the truth, that you're living with someone without a conscience. If you constantly find yourself confused, questioning if you are the problem, if you're crazy, if you're overreacting, stop, breathe, and ask yourself, did I feel this way before this person came into my life? Because Carl Jung said that psychopaths have a specific effect on the people around them. They make you feel small, confused, always in doubt. This isn't love. It's not friendship. It's not partnership. It's psychological abuse. And that leads us to sign number 4. Pathological grandiosity and a need for dominance. Jung studied what he called ego inflation. It's when someone completely identifies with the persona, with the mask, and loses touch with their true self. But in the psychopath, it goes even further. They genuinely see themselves as superior, special, above the rules that govern normal people. Jung described this as an ego disconnected from reality. The psychopath believes they are smarter than everyone, more important, more deserving, and everyone else exists only to serve their purposes. You'll see this in small and large behaviors. At work, they take credit for other people's work. They never admit mistakes. If something goes wrong, it's always someone else's fault. If something goes right, it was because of them. In relationships, they always need to be right. They need to control everything. Their opinions are the only ones that matter. Their feelings are the only ones that are valid. And they look down on anyone they see as inferior, which, in their minds, is everyone. Jung observed that this grandiosity came from a deep emptiness. The psychopath doesn't have a true self, so they compensate with this facade of superiority, but it's fragile, and when you challenge it, when you don't put them on the pedestal they believe they deserve, the mask slips, and you see the rage, the coldness, the contempt. Because for the psychopath, you've committed the worst sin possible. You haven't recognized their supposed superiority. If you live with someone who always needs to be in control, who doesn't accept being questioned, who reacts with disproportionate anger when contradicted, Jung would say, you're dealing with someone whose need for dominance is pathological, and they're never going to change, because change would require humility. It would require acknowledging faults, and the psychopath is incapable of that. And finally, sign number 5, the most disturbing of all. Absence of genuine remorse and an inability to learn from consequences. Jung believed that psychological growth came from integrating our experiences. We make mistakes, we feel remorse, we learn, we change. That's what makes us human. The psychopath doesn't go through this process. They may face terrible consequences, lose jobs, destroy relationships, cause enormous damage, and they learn nothing. They change nothing because they don't feel they did anything wrong. Jung described this as a disconnection with the moral function of the psyche. In healthy people, there's an inner voice that guides us, that makes us feel guilt when we transgress our values. This is what Jung called the ethical self. The psychopath doesn't have that. They can repeat the same destructive behavior dozens of times, each time promising they'll change, each time with new excuses, but they never really change, because they don't see a problem with what they do. Jung worked with patients who had committed terrible crimes, and what disturbed him most wasn't the nature of the crimes, but the total absence of remorse. They could describe horrifying actions with the same indifference that you describe the weather. If you're in a situation where someone hurts you repeatedly, promises to change, but never does, Jung would tell you something hard to hear. That person is not going to change. Because genuine change requires something the psychopath doesn't possess: conscience, empathy, the ability to feel the weight of their actions. And you can spend years waiting, years believing, years giving one more chance. But Jung knew, without the psychological structure for genuine remorse, there's no basis for real change. Now, if you've recognized these signs in someone, I know what you're feeling: fear, confusion, maybe even denial. Because accepting that you're dealing with a psychopath means accepting something scary. But Jung also taught us something powerful. Knowledge is protection. When you understand what you're facing, you stop trying to fix them. You stop blaming yourself. You stop believing that if you're just better and more patient and more understanding, they'll change. They won't. And it's not your responsibility to save them. It's your responsibility to save yourself. Jung believed deeply in individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, but you can't individuate. You can't grow. You can't become your true self while you're under the control of a psychopath, because they don't want you to grow. They want you to remain small, confused, dependent. So what would Jung recommend? First, trust what you now know. You're not crazy. You're not overreacting. If these signs are present, your intuition is correct. Second, set firm boundaries. Psychopaths test boundaries constantly. If you give in once, they'll push harder. Jung said, be clear, be firm, and don't let yourself be manipulated by guilt or pity. Third, seek external support. Psychopaths isolate their victims. They make you question your own perception. Talk to trusted people. A therapist who understands psychopathology can be essential. And fourth, in many cases, the only real solution is distance. Jung was a realist. He knew that some people cannot be helped, not because we haven't tried, but because they don't possess the psychological structure necessary for change. If you can, walk away. This isn't giving up. It's self-preservation. And if you can't walk away completely right now, protect yourself emotionally. Don't expect empathy from someone incapable of feeling. Don't expect change from someone without remorse. Don't expect honesty from someone who sees manipulation as a normal tool. Jung taught us that our greatest strength is our consciousness, our ability to feel, our humanity. Don't let a psychopath steal that from you, because as long as you keep feeling, as long as you remain capable of empathy, of true love, of real connection, you have something they'll never have. You have a living soul, and that is worth protecting. If this video has resonated with you, if you've recognized these signs in people you know, understand that you are not alone. Many have walked this path, felt this unsettling feeling, and questioned their own sanity. And now that you are aware, now that you possess this knowledge, you hold the power to protect yourself, to set boundaries, and to see through the carefully constructed facades. Remember, knowledge is power, and awareness is your shield. Carl Jung, a master of the human psyche, has gifted us with powerful tools, tools of observation, of introspection, and of understanding the shadow within ourselves and others. Embrace these tools, sharpen them, and use them wisely. Protect yourself from manipulation, from exploitation, and from those who would seek to drain your energy. Surround yourself with authentic individuals, those who radiate genuine warmth, and those who champion your well-being. And above all else, remember, the most important person to care for, the person whose well-being is paramount, is you. Prioritize your mental health. Trust your intuition and never compromise your own sense of self. Because as Carl Jung would emphasize, individuation, the process of becoming whole, begins with self-awareness and self-preservation. It's about understanding the masks we wear, the personas we project, and the shadows that lurk beneath. Only then can we truly navigate the complexities of human interaction and protect ourselves from those who would exploit our empathy.